Hey guys, the ENT podcast coming at you for week 11 of the NFL season. This is going to be episode 6. Unfortunately, Tim can't be with us today. He has some prior engagements. It is just going to be me, but do not worry, it's still going to be great. So, starting off, I'm going to give you my picks for week 11 of the NFL season. Then I will bring you into my upset and lock pick of the week. And then, because we're past the halfway point in the NFL season and it's coming down to the playoffs, I'm going to give you guys my rankings for the top 10 teams in the NFL right now. But starting it off, I'm going to give you my picks. So, Thursday, 8:20, Packers at Seahawks. I'm going to take the Seahawks. I'm going to tell you why. Seahawks have a better defense than the Packers. I know the Seahawks gave up 36 points to the Rams, but it's the Rams, they're the best offense in the league, and that just happens every week. The Rams are always going to score a lot of points. I think things to focus on is Russell Wilson is starting to play like Russell Wilson. He had around 90 yards rushing last game, which is more than he had in all the 7 weeks combined before this, and all the 7 games combined before this. So there's something to look at there. He also threw for 3 touchdowns. The offense is finding themselves again for the Seahawks, and I don't think the Packers are going to be able to stop them. I know the Packers beat the Dolphins. They're coming off a win. The Dolphins aren't really a team to grade yourself on. The Dolphins aren't good. They're playing with Brock Osweiler. I think that doesn't really say much about the Packers. I think we learned more about the Seahawks in a loss than the Packers in a win last week. And from what I learned, I'm going to say the Seahawks win this game. Moving on, first game Sunday, 1 o'clock, Titans at Colts. This is a tough divisional matchup. The Titans are coming off probably their biggest win of the season, blowing out the Patriots. They looked better in every single way, especially coaching versus the Patriots last week. So, they're going to be coming into this game. They're going to be away, but they will have momentum. Now, if we look at the Colts, they haven't given up a sack in I can't remember how long. They're finally protecting Andrew Luck. The offense is looking great. The defense is underrated. They're on the up and up in this league, and I'm going to pick them to beat the Titans. I'm going to pick them because I think Andrew Luck is about to turn into Andrew Luck, who we thought he could be before he had those string of injuries. Andrew Luck is playing very well, and I think in this league, especially this year, offense wins. So I'm going to pick the Colts in this one because of their offense. Moving on to another 1 o'clock game, Buccaneers at Giants. Last week, the Buccaneers put up around 500 yards and 3 points. Now, I don't think that's ever going to happen again. It's the first time it happened. They have the most yards all time in a game while only scoring 3 points. So, history tells us they're going to put up points next week because they're going to keep putting up the yards. The Buccaneers have done it all season. Now they're going to come in with some points this week against the Giants. I know the Giants won last week. It wasn't impressive. It was against Nick Mullins, a third-string quarterback who Kyle Shanahan is making look really good. The Giants barely won, if that has anything to show for it. I think the Buccaneers are going to win this game away from home because they're going to actually put up points this week. Moving on, another 1 o'clock game, Steelers at Jaguars. Sort of a revenge game for the Steelers, who overlooked the Jaguars in the playoff last year and got beat. This is the tale of teams going in 2 different directions, if you ask me. The Steelers are going up. They look like one of the best teams in the league. The Jaguars look like one of the worst. They can't figure anything out. Leonard Fournette's back. That helped. He had a very good game, touchdowns-wise. They did lose to the Colts last week. Steelers are coming off a huge blowout win. I know this is in Jacksonville, but I still see the Steelers getting a W. The Steelers get after the quarterback incredibly well. Blake Bortles, when given all the time in the world, is an average quarterback. Blake Bortles, when pressured, I don't see him being able to win a game. If the Jaguars win, it's going to have to do it with the run game, which they went back to. If you noticed when Leonard Fournette was back, They immediately started running the ball more, went away from the pass, which is what I think they want to do. I don't think it's going to be enough against the Steelers. I see the Steelers winning this game, and I think it's going to be by at least 10 points. I think they're going to blow them out. Moving on to another 1 o'clock game, Panthers at Lions. These are two teams coming off embarrassing losses last week. Panthers maybe more so because it's the only game being shown on Thursday night. However, I think the Panthers have a really, really good shot beating this Lions team. The Lions have a bad defense. I think they've given up. I mean, the trade of Golden Tate sort of shows that. I think the team may have given up too. I see the Panthers blowing out the Lions in this one. Cam Newton, look to him to have a huge game. Matthew Stafford has sort of been a disappointment for the Lions this season. I see the Lions going nowhere but down from here on out, and the Panthers, they need this game way more than the Lions do. The Lions season is over, basically, in my eyes, whereas the Panthers need this win to keep pace with the Saints in their own division. So I'm picking the Panthers here. I think it's going to be easy. Another 1 o'clock game, Cowboys at Falcons. Now, the Cowboys came off sort of a prove-it win last week against the Eagles. Ezekiel Elliott looked really good. Dak still looked like an average quarterback that won't win you any games unless he has a lot of pieces. The blueprint's there for Cowboys to win games. The defense has to play well. They have to have a good running game. They can't be down by too much. I mean, you just have to make Dak do as little as possible. He's good in play action, not much else. And that's sort of how they know they have to win games. And luckily for the Cowboys, they are set up to do just that against a Falcons defense that is injured and not playing great. Now, looking at the Falcons offense going against the Cowboys defense, the Falcons lost and must be disappointed against the Browns. They didn't look great. Matt Ryan was frustrated afterwards. I don't know if you've seen it, but he was seen sort of blowing up as the fourth quarter was ticking down, about a minute left. He was freaking out on the sidelines, just not happy with himself. I think that continues. The Cowboys defense is really good. They played well for the first time in a while without Sean Lee. The rookie linebacker Leighton Vander Esch, the first-round pick, is looking good for them. I think that helps. That's why the Cowboys are going to win this game away from home. And the Falcons are going to have another loss to add into their really, really disappointing season. Moving on. Bengals at the Ravens. If you asked me this game, who's going to win maybe 2-3 weeks ago, I think my answer is different. I would have picked the Bengals. Now I'm picking the Ravens. And that's because the Bengals have probably the worst passing defense I've seen in my entire life. They're on pace to set an NFL record for yards given up in a season as a defense. And I know people are going to say, well, Joe Flacco might not play in this game. I think the Ravens are going to win in spite of Joe Flacco not playing in this game. I'm planning on Lamar Jackson getting his first start as NFL quarterback in this game and the Ravens winning. I see them doing that by Lamar Jackson using his athleticism, maybe doing some read options, and then finding some easy play actions down the field against this terrible Bengals defense. I think if Lamar Jackson was going to have to debut against any team as far as easiness is concerned, I think the Bengals are a great matchup. I know it's divisional. Teams usually get up for those things. But even if the Bengals do, the Bengals are still going to be terrible on passing defense, which is what you want if you have an unsure commodity at quarterback passing the ball. I think that'll help the Ravens. I see the Ravens winning. Their defense is great. Bengals without A.J. Green, with an Andy Dalton that looks worse by every single game. I don't see the Ravens doing anything but winning this week. Moving on. The last 1 o'clock game, Texans at Redskins. Texans are on a 6-game winning streak that I don't think anyone would have predicted when they were 0-3. The Redskins are coming off a decent win, low scoring, against the Buccaneers. I see the Texans winning this game. I know Deshaun Watson will be challenged because the Texans have a bottom 5 offensive line in the league, and the Redskins have a good D-line, but their D-line is mostly set up for stopping the run, which I know doesn't necessarily mean they can't rush the passer, but they do have slower 3-4 ends and nose tackles coming off, which Deshaun Watson should be able to outrun if he has to escape the pocket. I know they still have a decent edge rusher in Ryan Kerrigan. I think Deshaun Watson's faster than him. I think Ryan Kerrigan's not the top-tier player he used to be, so I don't think he'll be able to get after Deshaun Watson as effectively as maybe years past he would be able to. I don't see the Texans being able to run the ball. This is going to be the Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins show. I see them putting up points against this Redskins defense that has been susceptible to that happening to them before. And as far as offense goes for the Redskins, they've just looked so boring and uninspired the whole year. I know Adrian Peterson is having somewhat of a resurgence in his career. He could possibly win Comeback Player of the Year this year. I don't think it's going to matter. The Texans have a good defense as well. So the way I look at it, it's bad offense, good offense, and with a good defense and a good defense. So the team with the good offense will generally win if the defenses are pretty even. That's why I'm picking the Texans here. Moving on, the first 4 o'clock game is going to be Raiders at Cardinals. The Raiders look just about the worst team in the league. The Cardinals, with the new offensive coordinator, is looking better by the week. David Johnson is finally doing David Johnson-like things in this offense. I see the Cardinals putting a show on at home for maybe the first time this season against the Raiders, and I think it's going to be a good win for the Cardinals. Next game, Broncos at Chargers. Divisional matchup. Historically, has been a pretty good matchup. This season, the Chargers have been on a tear. They have one of the top 3 best receiving cores in the league. Phillip Rivers is good. Their defense is good. When you look at the Broncos' quarterback play, uninspiring. Running game. Phillip Lindsay's shown some bright spots. He can't win a game for you, though. Their defense is just getting older by the year. Chris Harris Jr. is still a great cornerback. Von Miller's still a great player. Bradley Chubb's a good rookie. But I don't know if they have enough pieces to slow down this Chargers offense. And I don't think they have the pieces at all to score on the Chargers defense. They've lost Demaryius Thomas. That's their one outside guy. I know he's getting older. They're going to try to rebuild maybe. But I don't see them scoring many points, and I don't see them stopping many either against this Chargers team. So I'm going to pick the Chargers. Next game, Eagles at Saints. The Saints are probably the last team anyone would ever want to play this week, coming off a couple big wins. Eagles coming off a devastating, demoralizing loss to the Cowboys. The Eagles probably need this game more than the Saints do. Saints still need to win this game. I think the Saints are going to win this game. The Eagles just look like they're having somewhat of an epic Super Bowl hangover. They're not playing like they did last season. Their defense has been terrible, which was their strength last year. Their offense looks sort of boring. I mean, Carson Wentz might throw to Zach Ertz every hour in the end zone, but I don't want to watch that. I mean, I know they still have a pass-heavy offense that's good with a good quarterback in the Eagles, but something's missing. They're not great this year. They don't have that fight in them that I saw last year, and that's exactly what I think the Saints do have with Drew Brees, my MVP pick, lighting up defenses, playing as good as he ever has, setting all the records this year. I don't see the Saints being stopped. The Eagles look like a shell of their former selves. The Saints might win this by 20. I mean, the Saints look that good and the Eagles look that bad. That's how far apart I see these teams are right now. And the Saints are going to win. Sunday night game, though, moving on. Vikings at Bears. A tough, gritty defensive matchup, potentially. The Bears probably have the best defense in the league. The Vikings they could argue they have the best on paper defense in the league. Now, what the Vikings don't have is an offensive line equipped with stopping the Bears and Khalil Mack. Kirk Cousins is having a great year, probably his best, but he has been hit all the time. This is going to be the first time playing the Bears this year. They will play them Week 17. In my eyes, these teams are very even. Matt Nagy might be the best coach that no one's talking about. He's making Mitch Trubisky, a guy I saw last year, as a probable bust into someone who can put up 30 points and 4 touchdowns in a game. I did not see that happening. That is all scheming and coaching from Matt Nagy in my eyes. And because of that, I think the Bears are going to win this game. I think these teams on a neutral field maybe split 5 out of 10 games each ways. I see them splitting home and away this year. I think the Bears are going to get this one. Moving on, last game of the week, Monday, 8:15, Chiefs at Rams. This is probably going to be the most anticipated game of the year since Saints-Rams or Chiefs-Patriots. These are probably top 4 in almost every single person I've heard of teams so far. The Rams need to keep winning, especially with that loss to the Saints, if they want to be the number 1 seed. The Chiefs need to keep winning to keep teams on the rise, like the Steelers and Chargers away, and especially teams like, I guess, the Patriots you could never count out. So both these teams need this win. When I look at this to try to see how can I separate these two teams, on offense, you can't really. I think both of these teams have the potential to put up 50 points every week. So offensively, I didn't find too much to separate them. I think Jared Goff is probably a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. But that's just me. It could just be because I haven't seen a ton from Patrick Mahomes as far as doing it again and again and again. This is only his first season. So who knows? Next year maybe I'll change my tune about that. But where I think you can separate these two teams is on defense. The Chiefs have a terrible defense, numbers-wise, and so do the Rams lately. But, however, the Rams do have actual stars on defense. Aaron Donald is playing great, and Ndamukong Suh is great. They have Ibukam, edge rusher, outside linebacker that's been good. Dante Fowler's been good, guy they traded for. So, and of course Marcus Peters, who's been playing pretty bad lately. I think he can turn it around. I still think he's a Pro Bowl caliber cornerback. Maybe he needs some help. But I think the Rams have actual good players, and they're just needing to play well. Whereas the Chiefs are playing bad because they don't have a lot of good players, and they're just playing up to how good they are. I think the Rams are playing worse than they can actually play on defense, and because of that, I see them turning it around, playing better on defense, and winning. Still a very high-scoring game, but I see them winning it. And that will wrap up my picks for Week 11 of the NFL season. Moving on to my lock and upset. My lock this week is going to be the Saints over the Eagles. I see no way the Saints lose that game with the amount of momentum they have and the caliber of team they're working with against the floundering Eagles. So that is my lock. Moving on to my upset this week. This is going to be a game that I did predict the Steelers to blow out the Jaguars, but there's a way this game goes where the Jaguars have a chance. If the Jaguars are able to not only run the ball really effectively, dominate time of possession, but also have their defense step up and play like the defense last year, there's a way they win this game and keep it low scoring. Maybe Blake Bortles has one of those weird Blake Bortles games he has every three or four games every season where he plays well. I can see the Jaguars winning this game. Now, I'm picking it as an upset because the Steelers will probably win and probably win by a good amount. But if the Jaguars play well and game script goes accordingly and they're able to run the ball and play well on defense, I could see them squeaking out a win. So that'll be my lock and my upset of the week. Moving on to the last thing I will be talking to you guys about this week. I know it's been short, but hopefully you can understand with Tim being gone. And that will be my top 10 NFL teams as of week 11 of the NFL season. Starting at number 10, I have the Houston Texans at 6-3, being the number 10 best team in the league. I think they're the 10th best team in the league for a couple reasons. They're coming off 6 straight wins. I can't ignore that. I know they have a bad offensive line, but they are getting it done. Their defense is still very good. J.J. Watt might not be the best player in the league or on that defense anymore, but he's still great. They have Tyrann Mathieu, new addition. He looks good. They're sort of rocking it right now. I think they're going to continue to hone that momentum. They might be rising up to the rankings next week. We'll have to see. Number 9, it's the Bears. Best defense in the league with one of the greatest coaches offensively in the league. It's a really, really good recipe for success. Mitch Trubisky's playing better than I've seen him. I know it was only 1 year, but last year he looked like a bust. This year he looks like you could build a team around him, win a couple games, especially with Matt Nagy. They're checking at number 9, however, and not any higher because they haven't really beat any great teams. When they go up against good teams, they lose. You could see that when they lost to the Patriots pretty convincingly. It wasn't as close as the score said. That's why they're at 9 and no higher, because I need to see them beat good teams when it matters. They'll have opportunities to move up when they play the Vikings this week. We'll see. And when they play the Packers one last time. If they can handle those teams, prove to me that they're not just one of these middle-of-the-pack teams that can beat the bad teams and lose to the good ones, then I'll move them up. But right now they're at 9, and they're going to stay at 9 until they change that. Moving on to 8. This is a team coming off a huge loss last week. This is going to be the Carolina Panthers. I have them here because Cam Newton is playing incredible. He's the best completion percentage he's had in his career. He's around 10% more, I believe, than he did when he won the MVP and lost in the Super Bowl. If that says anything, he's playing fantastic. They don't have a Coordinator of the Year award, but if they did, I would give it to, I think it's Norv Turner, I believe it is, the offensive coordinator of the Panthers. I might be wrong, but they're just playing great. Defensively, Luke Kuechly's still awesome. Thomas Davis is still a good player. Shaq Thompson is good. They got a good front seven is all I have to say. As far as secondary, they might be a little weak there. I think they have some good pieces. I think the Panthers are a good team. Ron Rivera is a good head coach. That's why I have them at 8 at 6-3. Moving on to 7, this is a team with less wins than any other team I have on this list. This is the Vikings at 5-3-1. Now, some people might think they're a little high at 7 for me. Kirk Cousins is playing great. Adam Thielen's playing like he's one of the best receivers in the league. Stephon Diggs is always good. Dalvin Cook looks like he's coming back into things, maybe finally fully healthy from this hamstring. I think that's something to look at for how good they are. Their defense still has all the great players. It still has potential to be the best defense in the league. I don't think they're being talked a lot about their defense this year, whereas they were last year. People still need to remember they haven't lost anyone on that defense of note. They're still great. I have them at 7, and that's why. Moving on, Steelers at 6. They're 6-2-1, and they're playing fantastic. Their defense is running on all cylinders. They're the best defense in the league at rushing the quarterback. If you can pressure the QB, you can win in this league. Quarterback is the most important position, so if you can pressure it, you got a chance. Moving on to their quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger. He is playing lights out. He destroyed the Panthers last week. He looked amazing. They don't need Le'Veon Bell. His replacement is playing better than he ever has in a season ever. James Conner has more touchdowns at 9, I believe, than Le'Veon Bell has ever gotten in his entire career in a season. That might be because he could be better than Le'Veon Bell. I don't want to say it right now, but he has a better statistical season than Le'Veon Bell ever has. He's looking as good as Le'Veon Bell ever has. I know he might not be able to catch out of the backfield as well as Le'Veon Bell was, but he might be legitimately a better runner. I mean, of course, he has to do it more than 1 year in a row. He hasn't even done it for a full year. But just looking at how good James Conner has played, I could see it continuing for the rest of the season. And that's why I am 90% sure Le'Veon Bell's not coming back. And it's probably good for them that he hasn't come back this year. He missed the Tuesday deadline, so he's not coming back for the rest of the season. And that might be a good thing. The Steelers are known for having locker room troubles, and I think removing someone who could cause or incite trouble in Le'Veon Bell for the remainder of the season, not having the threat of him coming back, even more steadies their ship in the Steelers, I believe. And that's another reason they're at 6 for me, because I think they're finally going to stop making a bunch of noise, maybe focus more on the field, the playing field, and continue to be great, which is what they have been doing. That's why they're at 6. Moving on to 5, a team that looks sort of like they're on the decline. It's going to be the Patriots at 7-3. They're coming off probably their worst loss of the season. Now, I could look back the last 10 years, and there'd be a loss in there where I'd say the Patriots look done. This is a blowout. They shouldn't have done it. But if I remember, every time they've had a loss like this, debilitating, Brady couldn't do anything, they've come back and been fantastic. So I can only put them at 5. I can't put them any lower because of how good they've been in the past. I know this is sort of a current rankings, but I got to look at history for this. The Patriots, coming off a bad loss, will not lose again in that way, usually. If we look back, the last time I can remember them getting blown out like this would be, it was in 2001 or 2002 when they lost to the Bills bad week 1. What happened next? Oh, they won the Super Bowl. What happened when they got blown out, started 2-2, they got blown out by the Chiefs? Oh, 2014, they won the Super Bowl. Because of that, I can't put them any lower than 5. The Patriots last week might have been sort of an enigma. I don't know. Time will tell. They have a bye week this week. Can't really figure out more about them. I think Rob Gronkowski has to be healthy for them to play well. And he hasn't been, and that's why they played so poorly last week. Maybe a little bit. So I'm going to cut them a bit of a break, put them at 5. Moving on. This is the second to last team in the AFC I'm going to be talking about. This is the 7-2 Chargers, who are playing fantastic. If we just look roster-wise, they have an elite quarterback, an elite running back, an elite number 1 wide receiver. Great compliments other than that. I know Hunter Henry, their tight end, was injured, but Antonio Gates has been serviceable, and their other weapons, Tyrell Williams, Mike Williams, and Travis Benjamin, have complemented Keenan Allen very well. And they're a dangerous team that can put up a ton at any time. Also, they have a great defense. Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa, when they're both healthy, are fantastic. They have lost Denzel Perriman for the year. That will hurt them. I don't think it'll hurt them so bad. They have a bad defense. They have a great secondary. Derwin James, their starting safety, a rookie they drafted, is my pick for Defensive Rookie of the Year. Could even be Defensive Player of the Year. I have said that earlier, and I still will make that pick if he keeps playing this well, keeps getting better. Derwin James, Defensive Player of the Year candidate. That's why the Chargers are at 4. Moving on. Chiefs. The best team in the AFC, in my opinion, right now. They're 9-1. Their only losses is the Patriots in New England. So it's not easy to play there. They have essentially a rookie quarterback starting, and they're 9-1. They look fantastic. They have probably the second best or third best offense in the league. They have Travis Kelce, who is right now the best healthy tight end in the league. Tyreek Hill is probably one of the most unheard of before unique weapons I've ever seen in the NFL. Very, very hard to cover. Just the fastest person in the league. And when you have the fastest person in the league and a good head coach like Andy Reid and a quarterback that can throw it forever like Patrick Mahomes, you're going to have a great offense. Their defense is probably why they're 3 and no higher. It is terrible. I haven't seen Eric Berry yet this year. He, maybe if he can come back, will have them playing better. Until then, they're only good at one side of the football. And now I know they can probably make up for that because their offense is so good, but there will be games they can't put up 35 points. I know it doesn't happen often, but it will happen. And they'll probably play some teams like the Rams this week that have just as good of an offense and a better defense. So the Chiefs are vulnerable there. If Patrick Mahomes has a bad game and the Chiefs defense play like the Chiefs defense has been playing, they can be beaten. That's why the Chiefs are 3 for me, not any higher. Moving on to number 2, I have the Rams at 9-1. I know people might be saying, hey, the Rams defenses look terrible. They've looked vulnerable multiple weeks. They've either almost lost or lost like they did at the Saints. What I'm going to say to that is they only have one loss to probably the best team in the league, in my opinion, the best team in the league. Other than that, They've been played tight against good defenses in the Broncos and the Seahawks twice. The Seahawks are a divisional matchup. Those games are always close between the Seahawks and the Rams. I'm not looking at that like something to worry about. I'm looking at that like, hey, they escaped. They won. They've already played the Seahawks twice. They don't have to play them again. I think it's once they get past the Chiefs, they won't have another team on the schedule that could be as good as any other team they've played as of yet. So, I mean, all they did was lose to the best team in the league. You can't really fault them for that. And I think they have the best head coach in the league besides Bill Belichick and Sean McVay, who's a great offensive mind, who's good at motivating his players, looks like a real good coach, Hall of Fame level. That's why they're at number 2. Moving on, the best team in the league, it could be no one else but the Saints. Drew Brees is playing like the best quarterback in the league. Alvin Kamara is playing like Marshall Faulk. Mark Ingram's coming into it. He's playing very well. Probably the best he's ever played. Michael Thomas looks like he could be the best receiver in the league. An absolute mismatch. He's pretty much their only good receiver right now as far as numbers. It's like Drew Brees is throwing to one person, and it doesn't matter. That's how good the two of them are. Moving on to their defense, they have a fantastic run defense, which historically, if you give Drew Brees a great defense, what happens? Oh, he goes deep in the playoffs or wins the Super Bowl. The one time he got a really good defense, he won the Super Bowl, beat Peyton Manning. Last year, he had a good young defense. They could have still won the Super Bowl if a miracle didn't happen. Here the Saints are with a better defense than last year, running the ball. It's questionable Marshawn Lattimore is having a bit of a sophomore slump. I think he can pull it back together. They still have a decent secondary. This Saints team is terrifying. I don't see a way they lose for a long time. They are the NFC favorite for the Super Bowl. The Saints are at number 1 until further notice. That will wrap up episode 6 of the ENT podcast. Thank you guys for listening. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. I know it's just been me, but I appreciate you tuning in. Please check in next week where hopefully Tim will be back. And thanks for listening.